we know where exactly our FDs are, we know exactly how much money we have in the bank. उसके सारे हमारे पास stats होते हैं. But when it comes to our body, why are we so hesitant in figuring out the stats?
I think it's got to do with fear. You don't want to know something is wrong.
How do you manage your stress?
So see, stress comes in different ways. So there's physical stress, mental stress, emotional stress, and there's environmental stress. Now, environmental stress is something that we do not have control over.
Rusk and chai, aloo de parathe, white butter, and mooli de parathe, gobi, whatever seasonal parathas are that are available. Is there like a way to have all of this and have a healthy gut?
Since the production of wheat became more commercial, gluten content kind of increased. I think it's very individualistic. If it's not feeling okay after eating gluten,
So what does alcohol do to your body once you consume it?
like I said, all nutrient absorption starts in your small intestine, but alcohol absorption starts in your stomach.
Does it mess around with your brain?
It does. And again, it kind of irritates your gut lining.
I have people coming and telling me that they have A-grade liquor.
At the end of the day, it's ethanol.
When you hear your clients telling you that हम तो ये खाते हैं, ये उससे बना है, जैगरी से बना है.
That people think that they're not consuming sugar, but they are consuming replacements which are also sugar. If you continue to eat the way you've been eating, you will continue to feel the way you're feeling.
Hi, I'm Neha and welcome to the Lifesavers Show. Today, I have with me a dear friend, Sahiba Bhardwaj, who is a nutritionist and a nutrition educator. She holds, in fact, a number of degrees from the Tufts University in Boston and has completed a lifestyle medicine CME certification from the Harvard Medical School. Welcome, Sahiba, to the Lifesavers Show.
Thank you, Neha. Thank you so much. It's a pleasure.
Along with the number of degrees that I'm extremely proud of that my friend holds in nutrition and being a nutrition educator, she also embodies a philosophy that emphasizes holistic wellness through diet and lifestyle and has ditched the diet philosophy. Am I right?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. So I'm going to start with asking you about the silent killer that is obesity, Sahiba, because my father suffered from it and he suffered from it for a very long time. And that, I believe, is what led to, his various complications with his heart, with his brain. It's a slow killer. So I want you to elaborate on how deadly is obesity?
So it's very interesting now that you mentioned your father as well. And, I think we are all at that age where we have aging parents, ailing parents, etc. And I have seen this trend that all our parents seem to have some sort of metabolic disorder. And obesity is linked to chronic inflammation, which predisposes you to metabolic disorders like type 2 diabetes, cardiac disorders, Alzheimer's, cancers, autoimmune disorders. So there's like a, number of diseases, even liver disease, kidney disease, all of these, they find their root cause in chronic inflammation.
Okay.
Interestingly, I came across this survey. I don't know how reliable it is, but claimed that 70% of the Indian population is obese. And more women are obese than men. And people over the age of 40 and in urban cities than rural. So, if you just look at the numbers that, you and I, we are over the age of 40 and we know so many women, even when we go out or go to the gym, etc., who are overweight, are struggling, to kind of drop that excess weight. So you see this trend over 40, you tend to start piling on weight. So obesity, like you said, is a deadly killer, but linking it to chronic inflammation very quickly, what is the difference between, say, chronic inflammation and acute inflammation? Acute inflammation is like a rapid immune response in our body. मतलब कभी हाथ कट गया, or you sprain your ankle. So immediately the body's immune system becomes active and it goes to that spot and starts healing that particular body part or removing the pathogen from your body. If you get like a stomach bug, you know how we end up with diarrhea. So that's
Yeah,
the
yeah.
body's a mechanism of getting rid of the pathogen or the foreign body. Now,
Okay.
chronic inflammation, on the other hand, is a very slow, low grade process wherein the body's acute inflammatory mechanisms fail to repair or get rid of the pathogen. So, उसमें क्या होता है कि it's just the symptoms are so overlapping with other conditions and very basic, like fatigue, depression, anxiety, gastric discomfort, unexplained headaches or body aches. Now, these are symptoms which, you might not take them very seriously, but when they continue,
Saiba, I know a number of people who complain about these symptoms on a regular basis, like a leaky gut, for instance, constipation, always being fatigued, and they don't seem to understand, or they don't seem to know that it is actually inflammation in their body that needs to be addressed, and they think that it's probably a number of other issues that are in play. But actually, so what you're trying to say is actually it is information which is that's what's happening to them.
it's called the low grade inflammation, which is there
Okay.
in your body, but which
So
you
this
don't
takes
know.
years to, let's say, build up.
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
Which is why it's a
Okay.
very slow process. And so it doesn't come up like, how you get a cut, you will immediately feel pain. There's bleeding that happens, there's redness, you tend to protect it and you
Yeah.
allow the body to heal it. But if you have like lung infection, it'll take you so many years or months to kind of, even for people to diagnose it or even for you to understand that kuch problem ho raha hai, right? So these
Hmm.
things, they build up over a period of time, and obesity is a very big contributor to inflammation. So managing your weight, the kind of diet that you have, people who consume a lot of ultra processed food, high carb, like refined carb food in their diet, sugar sweetened beverages, all these things. We know everything. It's all on
True.
the internet these
True.
days.
True.
People who
True. True.
don't exercise, and age also is a very big factor because with age our immune system becomes weak. So your immune
Yeah.
system as it is becoming weaker, and your lifestyle, if you don't have an active lifestyle, if you're not eating good, nutritious, balanced meals, and your sleep is not good, if you're not hydrating, basics, right? And
Hmm.
not lowering your stress. So with
Hmm.
age, stress becomes a factor, and hormonal imbalance. So interestingly, women, in fact, because we go through so much of hormonal imbalance post 40, that estrogen and progesterone are two hormones which can either become pro-inflammatory or they can suppress inflammation. So
Okay.
most women you will see are at a higher risk of developing autoimmune disorders also.
Saiba, you are saying that inflammation takes years to build. I want you to bust also one common myth that if you're thin and if you're lean, you could still have inflammation in the form of a high cholesterol or stuff that is going on inside your body, which you do not know about. Why are we so hesitant to get our regular blood work done, get our tests done, get everything, all the parameters of our health checked? But we seem to know everything that is that we have stocked away in terms of our money. Like we know where exactly our FDs are. We know exactly how much money we have in the bank. उसके सारे हमारे पास stats होते हैं. But when it comes to our body, why are we so hesitant in figuring out the stats of our body? Because that's the one that we live in.
I think it's got to do with fear. You don't want to know something is wrong. Every body is different and people are born with different body types. Now,
Mhm.
yes, obesity, or how we call the waist to hip ratio, these are markers that we use to kind of assess your health status, and along with other parameters like your blood work and everything else. But these are like the basic ones that you look at. So yes, people who are overweight or and don't have a healthy lifestyle, so to say. Now you can't compare that person with somebody who actually has a healthy lifestyle, and you
True.
don't have symptoms of any inflammation, or your
Yeah.
blood work comes clean. So you are say you get your regular checkup done, you're fit. So there is no reason to be kind of stressed about it. So it doesn't work. I mean, these are generic guidelines which are given, but you have to look at yourself as an individual and then work around it. But I think people are scared to get their blood work done. For instance, in my practice, it's mandatory for people when they come to me to get their blood work done so that we can understand. And these are some set of questions that we ask in our initial, consultation, which are,
Yeah.
do you have any sort of unexplained headaches or bloating, gastric discomfort? Another question is, when you wake up in the morning, do you
Hmm.
feel fresh or do you feel like you can sleep more? No, this is
Lethargic.
something that, yeah,
Lethargic or like low on energy, you mean?
low on
Okay.
energy. So
Okay.
people don't pay attention to this, and then they start to think that, yeah, there, even though even if I sleep for 8 hours, when I wake up, I feel like I can sleep more. So
True.
these are little signs which tell us that there is some sort of underlying low brain inflammation. But
Hmm.
people are scared to get it diagnosed, and कि पता नहीं क्या
But why
मुझे
are they? I come across a number of people who are extremely scared of just getting a routine blood work done, like a blood panel or a CBC or their lipid profile, and they just assume that हम बिल्कुल ठीक है, हमारी बॉडी में कुछ प्रॉब्लम नहीं
हाँ,
है,
नहीं. So
everything
they're
is
in
absolutely fine.
denial. कि don't
Yeah,
tell
yeah.
us.
Yeah.
They're in
Why?
denial.
Because they don't want to accept maybe the results that, come, or they don't want to consult a doctor, or they don't want to, they just believe that while nothing is showing up or, nothing is evident. But like you said, these are small signs that people tend to ignore, like lethargy and, the other ways inflammation shows up in your body, which just goes unnoticed. So what are the other ways, Saiba, that inflammation shows up? I believe autoimmune disorders are one of the ways also that inflammation shows up.
Inflammation is your body's immune system's response, right?
Yeah.
Autoimmune condition is when your body's immune system starts, say, revolting against its own body or
Okay.
cell, right?
Okay.
So it
Okay.
just goes on list. Now, we do not know the exact causes or reasons why this gets triggered, but of course, genetics have a large role to play in this. So if you have close family member who has an autoimmune condition, then you are also predisposed to getting one eventually if you don't take care of your lifestyle, so to
Okay.
say. And
Okay.
anything can trigger it. Stress is a very big trigger for people. I'll give you
Okay.
my example. I've had hypothyroidism for 14 years.
Okay.
And like we were discussing about blood work, I always tell people that please get your blood work done at least once a year. And for us North Indians, March, April is a good time to get it done because after winters, when you have partied and done everything, you eaten our parathas and
Mhm.
everything, it's a good idea to take stock of your health and see that, okay, what is it that I need to focus on. So I
Okay.
also get my blood work done annually in March, April. And every year I get my thyroid antibodies also tested and they
Okay.
come normal. But
Okay.
this year, my thyroid antibodies came elevated. I had unexplained body ache and I work out in the gym. And it's not like a new concept for me. I've been working out for years now. But I could see that my body was not recovering the way it used to recover. And I had no energy to go to the gym and work out for good 3, 4 days. And I was like, let me just, get this checked because this is not okay. This is not normal for me.
Okay.
When I got it checked, my antibodies were elevated. Of course, then that means I had an autoimmune condition that got triggered called Hashimoto's, which is of the thyroid gland. So,
Okay.
again, stress was a big contributor. But again, I'm post 40, I'm perimenopausal, hormones are,
Mhm.
imbalanced, so to say. So, collective reasons why this could have happened. And also, I do have a family history of autoimmune. Both Nanka, Dadka have had autoimmune conditions. So it puts me at a higher risk in any case.
Okay. And how had you gone about when you say stress is a big precursor to getting these, maybe getting inflammation or getting any sort of an autoimmune disorder showing up? How do you manage your stress in your life? And what are the tips that you can maybe share with me? I'll share with you, like, I meditate a lot. Every time I'm sort of stressed or anxious about something, I switch on certain apps on my phone and I do a lot of breath work, and I've started doing this very recently. It's helped me immensely. So I do it in the morning and I do it in the evening. And that's the way I handle it. I want to know how you handle it so that there can be different perspectives on how to manage stress.
So see, stress comes in different ways. So there's
Okay.
physical stress, mental stress, emotional stress, and there's environmental stress, right?
Okay.
Now, environmental stress is something that we do not have control over at all. I can't tell my client that Delhi chhod ke please Kashmir chale jao, pahadon mein raho. Right? That's not possible.
Yeah.
It's not
Yeah.
practical.
Yeah.
So that is something we can't control. But what we can control is the physical stress, mental stress, emotional stress, and the food that we eat. So you're not stressing your body with, foods which are not nourishing,
Mm-hmm.
foods that are pro-inflammatory. So even in our practice, what we do is we follow like an elimination diet, wherein we
Okay.
remove certain foods which could be a trigger for inflammation or could aggravate it. So for
So
some
how do you
time,
figure those? How do you figure those foods out? Like, is it like a?
there,
Is there like a?
there is a lot of research to kind of
Okay.
that has found a few trigger foods.
Okay.
So dairy has, casein, which is a protein, which is a little difficult for the body to digest. Now,
Okay.
before I start with that, what happens with autoimmune disorders or any sort of inflammation is that the inflammation goes into your gut. Now, the gut or the small intestine basically is where all nutrient absorption happens, right? And if that is inflamed, it
Yeah.
leads to leaky gut. So, because
Okay.
the intestine is not able to filter out the pathogens, right?
Okay.
And absorb the nutrients. So either it opens the pathways for all the pathogens also to get into the bloodstream, or it blocks the nutrient absorption as well. So
Okay.
you end up with deficiency, or you have further inflammation because there's so much of, not required foreign bodies entering your bloodstream.
True.
So,
True.
it
Okay.
becomes like a vicious circle. So the
Hmm.
first thing to heal in any sort of inflammatory disease or condition is we start with healing the gut.
With the
Now,
gut health. Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
So once you start looking at that, and there is growing research coming up that shows that, if people with a diverse gut microbiota have a stronger immune system and their inflammatory markers are significantly lower. So
Okay.
that's the first
The
thing that
gut
you need
is
to manage.
also apparently it's also the new brain. If you look after your gut, it's that's what I read in a
The
health paper
gut brain
somewhere.
connection.
Yeah, that is your new brain that you have to look after that because then it's the rest of the body is taken care of. How much of that statement do you believe?
Um, Again, this is, there's research happening around it. So if
Okay.
you actually speak with the, scientists who are working in this field of gut health, etc., they will tell you that
Yeah.
we've only scraped the surface so far. There's very little that we know yet. But which is why, you don't, but there are certain things that we know for sure because of the collective research that has happened over the years. That is that if you increase your fiber intake, that is good for you. Fermented foods, they help in growing your gut microbiota. So these are things that, and removing inflammatory foods or ultra processed food, high sugar foods, all these, things you need to kind of remove from your diet. So gluten is one thing which again is a little difficult for most people to break down and digest. So in any inflammatory condition, we try and remove these foods.
You're talking about gluten. Um, there is going to be a diverse sort of a number of people who are going to be watching this podcast, and people who have aloo de and gobi de parathe every single day. I have actually grown up on those. I'm sure you have as well because we come from proper Punjabi households. So to people who start their day with rusk and chai, with aloo de parathe and white butter and mooli de parathe, gobi, whatever seasonal parathas are that are available. I'm sure they're not going to take kindly to this. So, is there like a way to, have all of this and have a healthy gut?
So again, there is some research or some, articles that came out saying that since the production of wheat became more commercial, the gluten content kind of increased. So now, I don't know if we have enough data right now to back this claim or not right now, but I think it's very individualistic. If you feel, listen to your body. If it's not feeling okay after eating gluten or
Yeah.
wheat prathas or anything, if you're doing rusk, and try to eliminate it and see how your body functions. If you think your body is, performing better, feeling better, then you can identify that, okay, maybe I need to limit my parathas and don't overdo wheat or gluten.
But what about the people who basically wake up to biscuits and chai and to rusk and chai? They cannot seem to, use the washroom till they've had their mera cha da cup te ude naal mein rusk khana hi khana hai. So how do you get around that? Because my father used to do this. My mom continues to do it. But they're so adapted to that sort of lifestyle that they don't think that there's anything wrong with it per se. That their body is okay with that massive insulin spike that you get early in the morning with rusk and chai, and that it's not healthy. So how do you tell them? Because you and me are part of
So you
this
can
sandwich
try telling them,
generation.
but
No,
you may or may not
the
listen.
thing is that you and me both are part of this sandwich generation where we are at a crossroads at looking after our family, and then we have to give time to our parents and see in any way extend their quality of life, extend their give them as healthy as a life as possible. But how do you get them to, because sometimes it is so difficult to ask them to make those changes, so how do you get them to listen to you?
So again, till some illness comes knocking at their door, they will not listen to you. In my case, since I am a nutritionist and I work with so many people, and we've managed to either slow down the progression of diabetes, reverse pre-diabetes in people. So even my father, he's 72 now, and he's diabetic, he's hypertensive, but he starts his day with his cup of tea and two rusk, which I've sourced from Dehradun because he really relishes them.
Those are
And
quite famous. Those are quite famous because my mom has them as well. Yeah, they're quite famous. Yeah.
mind
Yeah.
you, the cha will have sugar free in it.
Okay.
So that's his way of compensating,
Okay.
right? But it's very tough to do it with your own parents.
What are the detrimental effects that alcohol has on your body? There was somewhere I was reading about alcohol, and in one article it said that the moment you even have one sip of any alcoholic beverage, your body is actually trying to reject it. It's trying to take it out from your
Because
system.
it's
It's
quite,
like it's poison. So
yeah.
it's trying to reject it. It's trying to take it out and flush it out the first chance that it gets. And then there is host of other things that happen, but we continuously are putting ourselves through it. So, what does alcohol do to your body once you consume it?
So see, very simplistically put, alcohol is something, like I said, all nutrient absorption starts in your small intestine, but alcohol absorption starts in your stomach. Which is why
Okay.
we tell people that eat something, so that if you say eat on a roti or a bread or something, some carb, the alcohol, once it reaches your stomach, the roti is going to absorb it for a little time before it starts getting absorbed into the body, and it goes straight into your bloodstream. It has no barrier, so it reaches the effect of alcohol. Is very fast, and it reaches most cells in our body. And the first thing that it hampers is your brain and body communication, and all your your dopamine, serotonin, GABA, glutamate, all these pathways, everything gets disrupted. So there's an
Okay.
initial high, and then there's a drop. So you will usually find people, once they start drinking, then they start getting very excited, they're happy, and then when the effect drops, they become sad, and they start
Yeah, what
sulking.
is it? If does it mess around with your brain and the brain function as well? Like, is
It
it
does, because, like I
severe?
said, it has no barrier, right? So it reaches
Okay.
your brain, and
Okay.
that's where it hampers, because the brain is communicating with our body, right?
Okay.
And the second is, it puts immense pressure on your liver,
Okay.
because the metabolism of alcohol starts there, because the body is just trying to get rid of it at a very fast rate. And every other metabolism stops, which is why people who are trying to, say, lose some weight, we tell them stay away from alcohol, because it affects your fat metabolism as well.
Okay.
And then, of course, your vitamin A pathway gets blocked. Your B vitamins absorption stops. So there's a lot of deficiencies that will happen over a
Yeah.
period of time. And
Yeah.
again, it kind of irritates your gut lining.
Okay.
So then it leads to leaky gut. It dehydrates your body. So it'll lead to irregular heartbeat. So it's just messing up your body because it's like poison. It's a toxin in your body that you put.
Alcohol is alcohol, whether or not I have people coming and telling me that they have A grade liquor, they have very expensive liquor. They stay away from anything that is substandard and trash. But I have no heart to tell them that alcohol is alcohol,
It's
whatever form
ethanol.
you have it in.
Yeah.
It's
At the
poison.
end of the day, it's
Yes.
ethanol, right?
Okay.
Everything, whether it's alcohol, will be ethanol. So your body at the end is metabolizing ethanol. So it's something
Okay.
similar to say sugar. People say, I don't take sugar, I take brown sugar, or I
Yeah.
take jaggery. But
Yes.
the body doesn't know. In the end, in the body, when it's kind of, broken down, it's broken down into glucose.
Yeah.
So it's the same whether you're having tequila, you're having whiskey, you're having rum, you're having vodka. In terms of alcohol, it's ethanol.
Okay. So just
So
like
that is the
alcohol is any form of alcohol is alcohol, whether it is whether it is expensive, whether it is mid range, whether it is low range, it is alcohol. In the same way, also I want you to bust this myth that sugar is sugar. I have different parents of my daughter's class, discussing this that this product has coconut sugar in it, or it is made with some form of jaggery, or it is made with some form of basically different names of sugar. It is just not sugar, it is just different names of sugar. So you're right when you say that your body doesn't know that it's when you're feeding it ice cream, or when you're feeding it an aloo ka paratha, or when you're feeding it like a high protein snack, it will convert everything into sugar, right?
not a high protein snack, but of course a high carb snack.
Yeah, high carb snack. So basically you get those glucose spikes according to what you consume.
Yeah. So if you
How do
think
you
that,
react to this a bit when you hear about, because you're a nutritionist, when you hear your clients telling you that हम तो ये खाते हैं पर इसमें ये उससे बना है, जैगरी से बना है, तो ये तो खा सकते हैं ना हम.
yeah.
So what do
So
you tell
that
them?
is the thing, I don't do any sugar. That's how they start.
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
off sugar. I said, okay. Then, okay, tea. Do you take it with milk and sugar? No, I take it with milk and brown sugar. So
Okay.
then, like, okay, so in my thing, then I keep circling.
Okay.
So the way we do it, there is no judgment when I'm consulting, right?
Yeah.
Because I
Yeah.
need them to honestly tell me. And then we circle back and then I educate them that, brown sugar is also sugar. So even if you're thinking, which is why Neha, it's so interesting, and I have these conversations so often with my clients, that people think that they're not consuming sugar, right?
Uh-huh.
But they are
Uh-huh.
consuming replacements which are also sugar.
True.
Now they are consuming a large amounts of, say, natural sugar, saying that okay, dates खा रहे हैं, अभी एक डेट खा लिया, दूसरा भी डेट खा लिया, healthy है.
या फ्रूट खा रहे हैं या कुछ खा रहे हैं, एग्जैक्टली.
So fruits are okay when, if you're consuming a fruit in its natural form and not juicing them up.
Okay.
But like a date which is so small in size, you
Mhm.
tend to eat 2, 3. And now one mature date, the big one, that gives you 16 grams of sugar.
Okay.
So now, and it'll give you say about 65 calories. Now, if you are
Okay.
trying to lose weight and you eat 3, 4 dates,
Mhm.
it's going to take you, it's not going to keep you in a calorie
Yeah.
deficit. Going
Yeah.
to change your caloric intake. So people don't understand that. And then people don't understand, how to measure. So there are times when you need to start measuring your food to understand what are you eating. If you keep eyeballing, you keep telling yourself that हम तो कुछ खाते ही नहीं है. Like some of my clients will come and tell me that हम तो कुछ खाते ही नहीं because they are skipping breakfast
Mhm.
because they have read that intermittent fasting karna hai, to skip
Yeah.
breakfast. Then they eat a small lunch and then they start binge eating in the evening because the body has not received the calories that it
Yeah.
needs in the
Yeah.
first half of the day. And
Yes.
then they lose track of how much and what they are eating, say, as snacks. So
Yeah.
if there is aloo bhujia, they'll finish a whole packet and they feel like, तो क्या हुआ, मैंने breakfast तो miss किया था,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know? And
Yes.
similarly, in terms of exercise, people come and tell me, I lift very heavy. I lift very heavy. I'm like, okay, can you quantify it for me? Can you tell me how many sets, how many repetitions, and what weight are you lifting?
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
I don't know, but I lift very heavy. So till you start,
Okay.
noting this down,
Yeah.
and this is also something I learned very recently, that you start logging your exercise every day, and then you see how you're progressing in terms of, increasing your weights, your strength is building. So I think you really need to start doing these things.
Yeah.
In general, people should.
Yeah, in fact, it's a very good idea to in fact maintain food and if you're exercising, workout log so that you can see how much you've progressed, so that you can see how you were last week as opposed to how you are this week. It's a proper game changer. I mean, it is such a good the data analysis that you have in front of you. It is absolutely fantastic. I want to now ask you, why do so many nutritionists have this, give their clients or make them believe that they make them believe that there's a love-hate relationship with food. So I know of a lot of friends who um, consult different nutritionists and they give them, one day आप सिर्फ burgers खाएंगे, दूसरे दिन आप सिर्फ पिज्जा खाएंगे, और तीसरे दिन आप मैगी मैगी और पिज्जा का कॉम्बिनेशन खाइए. After that you will not have anything, or you'll have celery sticks, or you'll have, why do they do this? Like, why cannot everything that people like to eat or enjoy, can it not be had in quantities which are okay? Or does it need to be, like one पूरा दिन मुझे खाली pizzas ही खाने हैं आज, और पूरा दिन आज मैं खाली burgers ही खाऊंगी क्योंकि मेरे dietitian ने बोला है ये.
This is a very good way of luring people to come to you and increasing your clientele. Because the minute I tell you that, okay, these are your conditions, medical conditions, and this is how I tell people that this is the condition, and this is why you've come to me to change this or reverse this. Suppose you're pre-diabetic, you want to change this, you're not feeling good about your body, right? So if you continue to eat the way you've been eating, you will continue to feel the way you're feeling. So there are certain changes that you'll have to make. Now, those changes need to be sustainable.
Yeah.
And it's very psychological. If I tell you
Yeah.
how, if we both have daughters, and
Yeah.
when they were younger, you must have seen, if you tell them कि ये नहीं करना है, इसको नहीं छूना है, how your mind is only focused at touching that. So the minute you remove certain foods completely from the table, your mind is
Yeah.
only going to think about those foods, and then when
Yeah.
you actually end up eating, you binge eat, right?
True. True.
So the idea is to create that a sustainable plan. So for instance, if you've come to me and you tell me that I really enjoy eating parathas, but I tell you, okay, let's keep the parathas initially 4 times a week, and 2 times in a week, let's change it to something else. And
Okay.
it sounds good to you that, at least 4 days in a week I'm eating paratha. And then gradually, when you start feeling better on days that you've not eaten a paratha, you will be more motivated to let go of it. So it's a slow and gradual behavioral change that you need to make.
Yes, 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 you're right. Now that you've brought up the fact that both of us have younger, kids to look after, what is the trickle down effect that you have in your family, when you're raising your child? What sort of nutritional requirements do you look at when you're packing her tiffin? I'll give you my input on this. I am not okay with snack boxes and junk being offered in her school, in the canteen, or if she, they have these, they call it labeled as healthy snack boxes. So once I opened this healthy snack box, and it had a packet of Oreo, it had a fruity, and it had a samosa, and it had, I think, a packet of chips or something like that. And I just looked at it and I was just shocked, and I was like, which part of this snack box is actually healthy? I mean, I don't know. So I bought it up and I said, I bought it up with the school and I said, I don't have a problem in selling it in your canteen, but it should have a label that says junk food, because kids need to understand that what they're eating, this is deep fried, this has high levels of whatever processed carbs and all of that, sugar as well. This is not healthy for your body. So then you need to have a junk section. While you can sell it, it's okay, but you need to have a section that says this is junk food.
Right. And this actually is becoming more of a problem because of the Western influences in our country. Because earlier, if you see the midday plan or midday meal, used to have healthy food. So
Yeah.
they used to be. So when my daughter was younger, she used to get like a midday meal from school. So it would have say rajma chawal with some sabji and curd, and maybe some sweet accompaniment in the box. But every day was a healthier version of whatever we eat at home,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
But so very interestingly, when I was doing my masters at Tufts, we had this whole lecture on how the American food or the American schools, the food that's offered to children in the cafeteria is so unhealthy, and how do we change that? And we were, everybody was going through solutions and everything, and I was like, so I stopped them at one point and I was like, I want to first ask, what is the typical American diet? What are the
Mhm.
kids eating at home? Because so then they started laughing and they said, there is no typical American diet. I said, that's where the problem is, because if the child is getting exposed to eating frozen, packed, ultra processed food at home, that's what the child is going to go and pick in schools or wherever they go. Right? I said in our culture, and that's when I started, appreciating our culture and where we come from and what we've been eating all along. That on a regular basis, our children, if they eat home cooked food, they are eating balanced home cooked meals
Okay.
and nourishing meals.
So one thing that I have actually included in the way my daughter's nutrition is, and even my husband, in fact, everybody at home, is that I make sure that they start reading the labels of anything that they open or anything that they purchase or anything that they want to, buy off the counter or whatever, and just read. Be mindful of the expiry, the best before, the nutritional information, some of the jargon that is printed there, what to look out for. Do you do the same thing?
तो उसका बेनिफिट ये हो जाता है that she knows that I do most of the grocery shopping, so I don't have unhealthy food in the
Yeah.
kitchen or
True.
pantry,
True.
right?
True.
But the thing is now over the years, so there is some research to show that mothers, when they eat healthy or they eat a lot of fruit, the daughters tend to eat more fruits as well.
Okay.
And I think I always tell my female clients that you are like the center of the family. If you are fit and healthy, the family is fit and healthy. You eat good, the family will eat good, because the husband and the children are not really in the kitchen and deciding. You are the one deciding the food, which women don't understand. They put themselves last. Once we start putting ourselves first, immediately the family is going to be healthier. And that I've seen with my daughter. Again, I have this thing with her where nothing is off the table or out of bounds. So if you want to eat a pancake, you eat a pancake.
Yeah.
But then
Yeah.
largely, she eats clean. And even in her snack box, there's a fruit in that. There is an avocado sandwich or a hummus sandwich. And maybe, as a snack, there'll be cheese, or I'll give her makhanas or something. So most of the days she's eating that, and now because she's a teenager, she started to realize, because she's now monitoring her period cycle. So she's like, mama, my periods are so regular, and she sees so many of her friends are struggling with irregular periods and a lot of acne and all of those things. So she started to appreciate that, because my lifestyle or her lifestyle is clean, largely clean, her hormones are also in check.
True. That's a big thing actually. Yeah. Great. I
Yeah.
think we've had a lovely conversation. Thank you so much, Saiba. I've had a very I'm actually very curious for this whole information, and this whole information overload by you has been just remarkable. I've had such a lovely time chatting with you, and I'm sure the people who will start watching our podcast are going to feel the same, because this resonates with every Indian household, and this resonates with everybody who's got a family and who's living with in-laws or is just supporting the elderly people in their house. So thanks very much for being with us today. Again, it means a lot.
Thank you, Neha. Yeah, it was great. And I'm so glad we did this.
Thanks so much for listening to my conversation with Sahiba. Now, as a viewer, I want you to do a few things. I want you to like and I want you to subscribe to the Lifesavers channel. Going forward, we're going to be creating a community which you can keep coming back to. And as a viewer, also, I need you to tell me topics, give me interesting ideas in the comment section that you would like me to talk about or you would like to be covered. Let me know. Thanks.